One of our main stories this morning, this is about another controversial cycle lane coming to Sussex.
It's good news for everybody. 60 to 75% of people would take up cycling if they felt safe to do so, and this lane on the seafront is precisely for that.
So, not controversial for that person. Cyclists welcoming the idea of the lane all the way from Shoreham to Hove along the A259, but others say it'll cause traffic to grind to a halt.
The taxi trade, we foresee exactly the same happening in Shoreham as happened in Brighton, where a bottleneck was put on the seafront road, causing a massive amount of congestion.
West Sussex County Council currently consulting on the plans which would see a two-lane cycle lane run 5 miles along the south side of the A259 from Hove Lagoon to the Ada Ferry Bridge. They say it'll be separate from the road for the entire length, but admit there'll be pinch points where cyclists and pedestrians will have to share the footway. In a moment, we'll hear from a taxi driver who's worried it'll create bottlenecks. But first, our reporter Hannah Nita is in Shoreham. And whereabouts are you, Hannah?
Good morning, Danny. Well, I'm standing just by the A259 where this proposed cycle lane would be, at the Shoreham Lighthouse, just by the lifeboat station. And I'm joined by Clive Andrews, who's from Shoreham-By-Cycle, which is a local community group who campaign for safer roads. Now, we've seen, while we've been standing here, 5, 6 cyclists pass by. Clive, what's it like to cycle on this stretch between Hove and Shoreham?
On this particular stretch, it can be terrifying. There's other parts further along the coast, to the east or to the west, where there's separated space. Everyone feels safe. There's space to drive, space to ride bikes. But here, it's a problematic place. It can be really quite scary.
What do you think of these plans?
It's brilliant. It's a plan that's been long planned. It's been on the council's sort of blueprints and strategies for decades. Last year there was a consultation that happened. West Sussex County Council found that 79% of people were supportive of this scheme, which just shows that the need is there, the desire is there. All that needs now is for people to have a chance to feed into some of the details about exactly how it's going to be implemented.
Now, some of the worries that we're hearing is that it could create bottlenecks and cause pinch points for the traffic, which we know at times here isn't easy already. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, people sometimes do get concerned about that, and I can appreciate why. In this particular project, though, there's nothing to fear, because there's no reduction in the number of traffic lanes, of motor vehicle lanes. It's a two-lane road. It'll remain a two-lane road, so it'll actually make life potentially easier for driving. Because when I'm driving along here, sometimes if I'm trying to overtake someone on a bike, I've got to slow down, be cautious, overtake them in a responsible way. With people on bikes having their own space, that worry is alleviated. It'll help drivers. It'll help people on bikes too.
Now, another thing that people are telling us that they're worried about is that it's an investment in cycle lanes when there's actually investment needed just to improve the roads in the first place. Investment could be going to other places and this isn't the right place for it. What would you say to them?
There's a couple of things that are worth mentioning there. Firstly, a lot of the funding for this sort of project is now coming from a central government pot. Department for Transport through Active Travel England are giving out this money, and it's specifically for projects that make it easier and safer for people to make local journeys by bike. So it's a different pot of money. The other thing is that when these sorts of projects are implemented, often things like potholes get sorted out at the same time. When you improve a street, when you upgrade it, when you modernise it, sometimes sorting potholes and safe space for cycling and walking go hand in hand.
So you're happy with these plans as they are? There's nothing that you would like to change about them during this consultation process?
I think there are always chances to look at the details and suggest improvements. I've particularly got some concerns about the way the junctions work as they go past the new developments that will be in Shoreham. I'd like to see some tweaks and some improvements on those little junctions. And that's the real great opportunity that people have now, to look at those details, to refine them and to suggest little changes, little suggestions that could really help.
Clive, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. As you can hear, Clive, very keen to see this happen.
But you're in the spot that is, I think, the big pinch point on that route, Hannah. Just ask Clive this. What will happen on the pavement then as you go past the jet ski place and then past the lifeboat house and then the lighthouse itself and then onwards towards where they do the metal recycling? What will happen with bikes and pedestrians on the pavement there?
Are you worried about, this is a particular pinch point, are you worried about, what's going to happen with bikes and pedestrians here as they pass by? Because we can see there isn't much room for it to be separate to the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those tricky little design compromises. Ideally, it's always good to have a separate space for people riding bikes and for people on foot. That's always the gold standard. But yeah, at certain pinch points, there is a need to look at compromises, to look at the idea of what they call shared space. But at this part here, the plans that I've seen would involve widening the highway just a little bit and ensuring that that space is there for people on foot and people on bikes. So I think actually it's going to work out just fine.
OK, Clive Andrews, thank you. Chair of Shoreham-By-Cycle, talking to Hannah in Shoreham this morning. This text says, cyclists sharing footpaths with pedestrians always assume they have right-of-way and force pedestrians into the road. Lancing Green is an example. I don't think always is the case, but I've certainly seen that happen. Hannah's been speaking to some other local people who seem in favour of this idea.
Personally, I think it's a good idea, as people do walk up and down, and it's very small, narrow pavement. And at the moment, the cyclists don't move out of the way. They can't expect us to move out of the way.
You feel like there isn't enough room for everyone? Are you saying that the bikes at the moment go on the pavement?
Yeah, they go on the road pavement. They don't go on the road.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good, to be honest, because it'll calm down them traffic and won't create a lot of problems for the cyclists and the drivers.
You think it will improve problems?
Yeah, it will. Yeah, definitely will. Yeah.
Why do you think it will help?
Because it will create a bit more space for the cyclists and therefore create a bit more space for them drivers as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea, yeah. I think it'd be safer for the cyclists and for motorists as well.
Yeah, I do think it would be a good idea because there's a lot of cyclists here in the morning and it's a busy road, so it'd be safer.